I just hope everybody's listening to me, that I want to represent you. And when you're seeing my name on the ballot, you're seeing a community member that wants to represent all of the county. And I understand, as a commissioner, I'm not just trying to push my own district's desires. I represent everybody in this county. And when you guys vote, it's not just my district that votes for me. It's the entire county that votes. And I think it's really important. I would advocate that, for these kind of changes to not be taking place right now. I just don't think there's a need for it. And I am a little worried that, people that are currently surviving on fixed budgets and dealing and living out here in a frontier area, that once you start adding more and more costs to them, you're going to drive them out, and you're going to break up families. And these things we got to pay attention to.
It's stressful. It's stressful
when the economy's drying up and the inflation is going through the roof. I want to protect people from undue hardships.
That's right.
There's a huge opportunity here on the ballot, and I hope that you guys support me, because I want to support you. And there were a lot of folks out there that were not happy with this current commissioner. And so I want to represent those people that feel like they're not being represented. And I think it is time for a change.
Welcome back to Crestone Podcast Radio. We're here with Marcus Weir. Marcus Weir is running for County Commissioner, District 1. He is a truth, balance, and trust type of dude. He is a common sense approach to a serious issue that affects all of you in Saguache County in District 1. All right? You can read his bio on his site here. Right here, we'll get into that a little bit later, but his bio, he is a former United States Marine licensed Class B general contractor, grassroots member of the community of the Baca, resident of the Baca Grant, and 2 beautiful children on top of it. I want to say welcome to Crestone Podcast Radio, Marcus, your lifeline to the true news. Tell us, please, we want to know why you're running for county commissioner.
Well, thanks for having me on, Jeff. So I moved out here to the Baca Grande after deciding to kind of step down my professional career and push more towards focusing on my family and slowing things down a little bit in my life. Had 2 beautiful kids, one of them born in the house that I built out here. And really, I've had a great experience living out here in the Baca. And I truly love this place. This is a spiritual community in a very sacred valley. And I feel blessed to be a part of it. But unfortunately, during the time that I was out here, the pandemic hit, and I saw a lot of things change. I saw some encroachments on our freedoms. I saw the lockdowns. I saw the mask mandates, and I even saw an encroachment on our medical freedoms for the first time I've ever seen anything like that in my entire life. In a time when, also for a product that really wasn't tested and proven to be safe in it, and really was an experiment. So that for me and my own critical thinking, I saw this, the way that it was handled, and I really felt like no one was standing up for our freedoms and our constitutional rights during this time coming out of our own commissioners. And, so that alerted me that I ought to start paying attention to what comes out of our government. And I started paying attention, and then we had the emergency resolution happen. They actually, our county commissioners, all 3 of them, signed it and put it into effect on us. And we all found out about it later, which I thought was a little wild that could even happen. Even the sheriff didn't know they had signed it and put it into effect until after. And basically about the same time as the community, as we all started to become aware of what was going on, I saw like this really amazing grassroots effort come to fruition, where we had, and I met some amazing people. I met really awesome minds and really proactive folks that had a lot of great ideas, and immediately the community came together and had a plan. I think it was Desi that came up with a petition for us to sign that was asking for our commissioners to rescind this emergency resolution that they had put into effect. And you can go to my website, marcusweir24.com, and I posted that emergency resolution for anybody that wants to read it. I didn't put a lot of commentary into each topic on there, but in general, I think people should understand that they were allowing themselves to claim an emergency on a very long list of things that would be unsafe, and basically allowed themselves to enter any piece of any private property without a warrant if they were deemed it was unsafe. Allowed them to commandeer that property as any property they wanted as well. Actually, and water is a big issue. Also gave them the right to turn water off. And also be able to restrict all food sales, and also restrict all firearm sales, which if you look into the history of the state of Colorado, there was an attempt to give the governor the emergency power to restrict firearm sales, and it was struck down as unconstitutional, and they had to remove it. So then it makes sense that they came around on the county level to try to get that authority.
Undermining.
So anyway, the community came together on this, and it was an awesome effort. And there was actually a commissioner meeting a couple days after we had our community meeting here in Crestone, and actually all of the county came together. There was a countywide effort to let our commissioners know that we did not agree with this kind of a power grab. And that's what it was. It was a power grab, and and I believe this came down through the Democrat Party most likely, and FEMA kind of working together for what they want to be able to have the power to do that they didn't have the power to do without giving it to them through this emergency resolution. So anyway, we had the county commissioner meeting, and there were so many people in the community that showed up. The whole place was packed. You could barely even walk into the building. A lot of people spoke.
There was a lot. I was there.
A lot of people spoke, and some really great minds, and very persuasive people. And I spoke as well. And we got to the point at the end of it, and it blew me away. But they rescinded it. And kudos to them for rescinding it.
Yeah.
But my biggest problem with it, I think, after my walking away from that experience, the thing that was ringing in my head was that the county commissioners in unison, all three on the Democrat Party, their answer was to us when we said, "Well, why did you do this?" Their answer was they didn't read it. And that might work for some 1,000-page document going through federal Congress. But for this thing's I don't know, it's 8 pages or something like that with a title page and a signature page. There's no way they didn't read it. And if you look at the document, and so I think there's an integrity issue going on. I mean, I would have liked someone to say to me, yeah, I read it. The emergency manager told me this, and I thought that these things would be okay, but you know what? After you guys have really talked to me about this and looking at this in a different view, I'm changing my mind on it, and I'm rescinding it. And I appreciate everybody's input on this.
Yeah,
and I would have loved to see that, but I didn't see that. That's not what happened.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, they said they didn't read it, which doesn't pass the sniff test to me. So, so then I go and I ran a recall on Mr. Tom McCracken because I knew this guy was representing me and my family, and he didn't stand up for us for any of our constitutional rights when it came across with the lockdowns and the masks and the vaccines. I would have loved for one person out of any of those people to say, "Hey, well, wait a minute, should we close the parks? I mean, is that really what needs to happen?" And watching that turn into an issue where a parent couldn't even say, "Well, I don't think it's right to have my kid wear that mask all day long." And I think common sense, there's a lot of people that say, "Well, look, a child who's trying to learn and is mimicking the person that is teaching them, if you don't see the facial expressions, if you don't see the mouth moving, you don't see all these little indicators."
It's totally a learning disability.
I mean, I don't know. There's some things that are safe, and there's some things that are just seem to be getting authoritarian and a little bit out of control.
So relatives out there, we know that he's promoting our freedom. He's protecting our constitutional rights. And he's going to be there to listen to the community and the people, and he's going to be speaking for you, sitting in District 1. We need Marcus Weir because he's a constitutionalist. You lose these privileges, it's going to be harder to get them back. Don't acquiesce.
Well, and just to say, just to touch in on that, these are not privileges. These are our God-given rights. And we do have to fight for them. Jeff is absolutely right. And if we don't fight for them, they will go away. And that is what's on the table just about every time we have an election nowadays.
And then so was speaking with elections, what are we talking about with the Dominion machines getting kicked out of Rio Grande? Let's get into that real quick. Are we still Dominion over here in Saguache County or what?
Well, that's a big issue where a lot of people are losing faith in the Dominion machines, and there is a lot of evidence to support that there may be
election fraud, election fraud or something like that. Yeah,
I'm sure that there's different levels of fraud going on, but I think that's going to happen no matter what. In every single election, there's always been some level of fraud. But I think that when we're looking at the machines in general, we look at how these things are certified and the current ways that we're engaging in this contract with Dominion to count our votes, and the Secretary of State and her heavy-handed dictator. She's kind of like a dictator. I don't understand. But there's a lot of people that, when you read the statutes, our county clerks are supposed to run our elections, and the Secretary of State in Colorado is really taken over on this, and really is pushing that she has all the authority, and the county clerks need to do exactly what she says and how they run their elections. And a lot of our county clerks are kind of, they feel hogtied by this, and they're scared. We've seen a lot issues with county clerks in this state, and that where they're taking a stance against Dominion. And so what happened in Rio Grande, not everybody may know about it because it didn't really hit.
It didn't make mainstream
news or anything, but there was recently an update for our Dominion machines coming up for our new election. Some people say, "Oh, there's the new algorithms," and these things are these updates are supposed to keep our machines up to date and be tailored for the upcoming elections. But they come with a high cost. And they come with an extended and a contract that extends them. And so the Rio Grande commissioners, when their contract came up to extend and to update their Dominion systems, they had some issues. There's some experts that were brought in that testified and gave a presentation to the commissioner board, and they ended up rescinding their contract with Dominion that they had just recently signed for the update, and because of what the experts were able to present, there was enough doubt in their mind that they thought, well, okay, we're hearing that some of this stuff is not certified as it should be, and we're hearing that, and we're wondering why would we, why do we have to take this update? Because it's very expensive on top of that, and there's a large group of people that want to see hand counts, because then they say, well, hand counts are the only way to truly know that there's not some middleman messing with the numbers as you go through. Hand counts are considered expensive. There's also people that say that hand counts are maybe worse as far as what kind of issues can come up that give inaccuracy. But I can tell you that there are some of these experts have come up with a very good hand counting system where you have each ballot goes in front of a member of each party. So there's two people there, a Democrat and a Republican, and they're both looking at the ballot, and they both come to an agreement. They come to an agreement on what's been marked there, and then it gets recorded as it passes through. And truly, we've been doing we were hand counting our elections for the majority of the history of the United States, and it can be done. And really, our county is a small county. There's not a lot of votes to count.
That's right.
It can be done very easily. And I think that they want to turn this into a partisan issue, but really, it's not just Republicans that are saying they don't feel comfortable, or they've lost faith in the Dominion machines. There's just as I hear from independents all the time. These unaffiliated voters are calling my phone and they want to know more about me.
That's right.
And almost all of them, when if they have issues where they say, like, I don't know that my vote is actually being counted. I don't have true faith in that. And what I had to say to them is, like, I'm willing to look at that issue. Rio Grande, that's their own county, and they're coming up with that decision on their own. And, as far as our county goes, I would be willing to hear from the experts, present that to the public, let the public digest that information, let the public come, have input. And really, it's interesting, because usually when you have an issue where you're looking to prove whether or not something has integrity, you come up with a way to test it. And, I've actually participated in a recount process here in the county, and I saw the way it was done. And I had issues with that immediately. First of all, the audits, they come from Dominion. It's not a third-party audit. So, and I don't know, like, how is that fair if the person that's counting the votes runs their own audit? Then secondarily, they have these different levels, and, we're looking at this, truth and accuracy test that they give, first of all. And just to give an example of how it actually brings up these questions is, what they do is they say, okay, well, we're going to have first they say, okay, can you look at this machine and see that from this prompt screen that the modem is disarmed, and a little prompt screen pops up and it says the modem is disabled. And you get in this conversation and you're like, well, how do I know that it's really disabled? It's just a prompt screen. If you really think about how a computer is programmed, a prompt screen doesn't automatically mean that it definitely goes to the modem and it definitely shuts it off like a switch. That can be kind of like a sleight of hand maneuver. And there's actually a form to sign right there when, as someone who's witnessing this process. It's like, oh, okay. Do you agree that this modem is disabled? And you're like, well, I can't sign that because I don't really know that the modem's disabled. I'm just seeing this prompt screen that says that it's disabled. And so therefore I'm sorry that's not enough for me. So there's that. And then then it goes into, okay, well, Dominion has come up with this amazing algorithm where they are randomly selecting the ballots that we're going to test. And so we're allowing Dominion to select the ballots that we're going to test. We're not going to go over to the ballots and randomly select some. No, you have to use but you have to understand, you have to accept that Dominion has randomly selected them. Well, what if they're not? What if these ballots are known to not have been changed or not have been messed with? And so now you go do this limited test of only 100 ballots, and you don't necessarily know that they weren't ballots that were definitely not messed with, or votes that were not messed with. And really, I'm not pointing fingers and saying I know that they are. I'm just talking about the process that we're given to try to look for this integrity. So anyway, yeah, or to prove, and it gets into, it's intense stuff.
Well, let's just say that you heard it right here on God's Great Earth about election integrity, but at the same time, we're not pointing fingers here. We just got some questions and concerns. And to be able to have Marcus Weir here on County Commissioner District 1, Saguache County, would be excellent. So, Mr. Marcus, I would actually like to ask you, how would you add balance to the board of county commissioners?
Basically, what we're talking about as far as balance goes is we're talking about the current board being comprised of 3 members of the Democrat Party. And so when issues do come up, you're most likely they're speaking in unison, and there isn't a lot of pushback. And so I don't think the public really gets represented under that structure, because there is a large percentage of this county that doesn't consider themselves to be Democrats, and really wants to be represented. So I think that right now is a great time for that to happen, and I hope that people vote for me.
I hope so too. Even though you're getting signs stolen out of people's yards right now, he's -4. So if you're doing that out there, that's illegal. You can get in trouble. So stop stealing Marcus's signs here, okay, out of people's yards. That's illegal as hell. Create more transparency and opportunity in the public input. So you're totally here to listen to us, and you can get it, and we can call you. We got your email number. I'll put it up right now. Right there. So is this correct? Right?
Yeah. And I want to thank everybody that has called. I've gotten a lot of calls from people that want to know what I represent. And if you don't reach out to me and let me know what your concerns are,
he can't fight for you.
How can I fight for you? How can I represent you? So I appreciate those calls, and and from all sides, I truly want to represent everybody, and it's important for us to digest how these changes that are coming out of our county and that are affecting us. What is the purpose of doing these, and how will they really help us, and are they going to help us, and will they help the generations that follow? And I think that's what's really important. That's kind of what's missing, rather than what feels like is a step-by-step process to get our county in line with the Democrat agenda.
Right. No, we see that all the time around here nowadays. But don't be hasty with one another. Don't be hasty. Let's support one another, and let's move through this together. So my next question is support less government waste and over regulations. How are you going to fix that?
Well, my experience dealing with budgets and dealing with on a contractor level and materials and payroll. There's almost always somewhere where we can save some money, and we really got to pay attention to that going into the future. Leading this county from the commissioner board, we're in a time where inflation is going through the roof, and everybody is feeling that pinch. And it seems like between our taxes and between the higher cost of living, higher insurance, higher gas, higher food. Pretty much all around the board, everything we get costs more. And for the government, it's no different. And so we really need to look at, how we're procuring and where we're procuring from and our overall bottom line in every aspect of what we're doing. And then, if we're contributing to programs that people aren't participating in or there isn't a real need for, then we should look at that and say, and look at ways to cut that waste. And as far as the overregulation goes, we had all these issues come up, our land use and our building codes. These things really have defined Saguache County for a long time. The fact that someone could come out here and make something for themselves without all of the heavy regulation and burden that comes with building, the architectural and the engineering and some of these things are really a burden for someone that has a vision, has the will and the desire to come out and homestead, in what is still a frontier, because we are in the Wild West out here. And to understand that, like, this is what people come out here for, to live through the hardship. It's not easy.
That's right. We're trailblazers around here. We are still represented as a frontier. How many people we live here in Saguache County? So we're a little bit more free range than the rest of these people out there in the world. So just let you know.
And that's part of what makes us great. And, that individual freedom to be able to say, okay, well, this is my land and I want to build something on it. And I want to use the resources around me to do it. I want it to be more sustainable. I can't just go to Home Depot and buy a list full of all the hardware and all the crooked boards.
Right. And this is coming from a Class B general contractor, okay, license, insurance, the whole 9 yards. But he's also trying to tell you, right? You're also trying to tell you to keep it like electrical and plumbing, do it by code.
Well, absolutely. The sanitation is very important. On-site wastewater is important. And electrical, obviously, I think that it's great that we can rely on the state to still come out and inspect electrical and plumbing issues, because the average homeowner sometimes could make mistakes they don't even realize.
That's right.
You could have septic gas coming up into your house. You can cause fires. There's a lot of different things that's important for. But then, I have a background. When I first started general contracting, actually I had I had a lot of experience with natural foods. I believe in organic farming and clean living. And I lived in Boulder for a long time when I first moved to Colorado back out in 95. And when I first got here. And so the first building building projects I got involved in were straw bale homes out in Carbondale. And I would, it was like a 6-hour drive, and I would drive out there and live out of my Jeep for a week while I worked in straw bale homes, and then come back for a weekend, before
covered in straw still
itching. And all the stucco work, of course, that comes along with that. But, and learning and just being, watching people put solar ovens in their houses on their southern facing sides.
It's beautiful.
And just learn and sucking up as much as I could, as far as the information goes and what people were doing.
Yeah.
Because it really is fun being a part of, projects that are groundbreaking, that are different, that are sustainable, that make you feel like you're doing a little more.
Right. No. That's beautiful, man. Getting down and dirty with, what God gave you to build and, coming down to earth, right, to help out the people on top of it here in District 1 of Saguache County. We all know that he represents the people by now. I mean, if you can't see the aura in this guy and you don't give a time or a minute to give this guy a call and have a personal conversation with him, then it's your fault.
Yeah, obviously, my phone number's right here on my flyers, right on my webpage. Give me a call. I want to hear from you. And one of the big things I hear about, one of the major topics around here is water.
Water, RWR. I was going to ask you about that. That was my next question. Is RWR and the meters. How do you feel if they come around here and start putting meters on your water well that you already paid for?
Okay, so I'm going to start with RWR. So the first time I heard about water export, I wasn't. It was during the time of the resolution, a little bit afterwards, and I started hearing about it. And to me, I think just like anybody else, it seems ridiculous that here we are in this semi-arid desert out here with very little precipitation. Most of it bounces over us and it gets trapped in the mountains on either side or moves on past. And we've seen throughout history the water table has dropped significantly. I mean, most of this area was marsh. If you go back even before the settlers came in here and really started the industrial farming and really pumping from the aquifers. So we learned a lot during that process, and some of it has actually filled back in, but nothing to what it was before we came out here. And it's a major concern. And I think everyone here knows that if you export the water out of this valley, you're stealing it from the future generations. And we don't have a right to do that. I don't think anybody really should have a right to do that. I know that water rights are, you can get into the weeds pretty deeply, and as far as that goes, because there are some people that think you have the right to do whatever you want with the water that you pump from the ground. But in this community, our ranchers, our farmers, they're paying higher and higher amounts of water to keep their business going. Higher and higher prices on their water to keep,
which costs you more money for food.
And it costs you more money for food, but it means that there's less and less water to actually be using. And you got to look at this not just from our county, but a valley-wide view. You have to understand that this entire valley is connected, and we have many counties in this valley. And some of the counties are even on heavier restrictions and burdens with water than in ours. And we have to understand that, and even in a spiritual perspective, our responsibility to the land and the life around us, it truly does. It truly does matter how we protect the water that's under our feet for the future generations. And so, water export, I think, intuitively it comes right. It's easy to understand. No, I don't really want that to happen. That could have really bad effects for the future. But I had to do some research on this, and I didn't even know what RWR was specifically. But then after I did research it, and I thoroughly went into it and actually met those guys, it seems to me like a pretty crazy plan. These guys are thinking they're just gonna pump a very large amount of water out of our aquifer and send it over to Douglas County with kind of a harebrained idea. They're going to send a pipe across federal lands. It's
called fracking.
I mean, it's even, well, I don't, and I'll even say, like, when it comes to environmental issues, I'm very purple. I mean, I don't want to see a whole bunch of fracking in our county. I think I've seen that in other counties, and I know that that's not what should happen. And I definitely do not. I'm against the water export. I'm against RWR's plan. I don't think it makes a lot of sense at all. Anyway, but I wouldn't support anyone else's plan either. I think it's crazy that the federal government is allowed to pump and send it down the Rio Grande for other farmers to have, and then telling some of our farms here in the county that they're going to pay them to this fallow farm program to pay them to not farm. But then because they're worried about the water, but then they're going to send it downriver to other farmers so that they can farm. And so, honestly, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And we really got to pay attention to this. And I will fight for our county's right to the water that's under our feet.
And the right to grow your own food, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
Yeah, obviously, self-sustainability is the future.
Hey, that sounds like a man. That sounds like the man that I've known since, like, for what, 3 years now?
Yeah, we're almost 4 years now.
Oh, for almost 4 years. And I always known him to be a fighter, and he stands up. I'm going to tell you that. He'll speak his mind, and he'll speak your word for you, the truth, the balance, and you'll have the trust within him. You should have already by now. You can get a hold of Marcus Weir at 719-289-8508. That's 719-289-8508. Marcus Weir, MarcusWeir24.com, MarcusWeir24.com. You can get a hold of him right there. So how do you feel about putting meter taps on your well? That was a part 2 question there, buddy.
Oh, sure. Okay, so currently there are many wells that are metered, depending on how large they are.
And depending on where you live.
Sure. When we get into the residential and we're looking at metered wells, I think, there are arguments that some people will use their domestic well in a way that that breaks that qualification. And so some people say, oh, you need everyone should have their well metered because of the possibility of them pulling this kind of fraud and taking too much from what they should be taking. But I think there's a whole group of other people that see, okay, well, if you're going to meter my well, then eventually aren't you going to charge me for the water that's coming out of the ground? And that is a possibility. So, what I would say is, like, most of this stuff is done on the state level as far as the metering goes. So
that's state handed down to the county.
I would advocate that, for these kind of changes to not be taking place right now. I just don't think there's a need for it. And I am a little worried that, people that are currently surviving on fixed budgets and dealing and living out here in a frontier area, that once you start adding more and more costs to them, you're going to drive them out and you're going to break up families. And, these things we got to pay attention to.
It's stressful. It's stressful.
When the economy's drying up and the inflation is going through the roof, I want to protect people from undue hardships.
That's right. One of my last questions, being a Class B general construction worker, contractor, would you still have time to be able to read through tons and tons of files and paperwork to be able to get us back on the right track for the people?
Well, sure. And I think that's part of what I'm trying to say. Our current commissioner said there was an 8-page document that he didn't read, but he signed it. And when he signed it, he violated the Constitution in my mind. When you look at what that document did, he broke his oath to the Constitution even. And so I want to give people a chance to have someone that represents them that won't do that. And I will read the fine print. I will read everything. Let me just say, I promise, if I'm elected, I'm going to read everything that I sign. And I will never sign something that I didn't read. And I'm not going to push something that that doesn't have a clear purpose to help and to make our county better. I took an oath to the Constitution. I am a constitutionalist. These are God-given rights, and without them, government becomes unburdened. And when you unburden government, well, you can guess what will happen. Tyranny will fill in that void. And that's why we have the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, is to put limits on the government, because we know what will happen. The forefathers knew what would happen, and they were thinking about those things. And when you look at the current structure and the ways that the Constitution is being attacked, you understand that once if they become unburdened by those constitutional rights that protect us, that what will be the outcome? The outcome will be a change of our entire system. It will be the individual that loses their freedoms, and it'll be this: you're part of a group, and so therefore you need to follow what the group says, and that's fundamentally what America is. That's why we're such a great nation, and that's why it's fun to participate in local government. And it's important. It's fulfilling, because as long as you have that guideline, that structure to make your decisions, going into the future, you at least have a road paved before you that you can follow, and I think that's where it's at. Rather than being told you have to go down this road and you have to do it this way. And I just hope everybody's listening to me, that I want to represent you. And when you're seeing my name on the ballot, you're seeing a community member that wants to represent all of the county. And I understand, as a commissioner, I'm not just trying to push my own district's desires. I represent everybody in this county. And when you guys vote, it's not just my district that votes for me. It's the entire county that votes. And I think it's really important. I ran a recall on Tom after what I heard his response was to sign the emergency resolution. And during that time, I got a lot of signatures. I'm only a few hundred away from what I needed. And it was a great experience going out and meeting the community and hearing all of the information that was passed on to me. And there were a lot of folks out there that were not happy with this current commissioner. And so I want to represent those people that feel like they're not being represented. And I think it is time for a change. And I've kind of seen Tom and the way that he runs things, and I'm not too impressed. I see him using procedure to cut people short, keep them from getting their full time to speak. Sometimes I see a smug type attitude, an unapproachable attitude. Sometimes I'm on the corner with my sign waving at everybody that drives by. And it's funny because I wouldn't expect Tom to do that, to be in a group in front of everybody. He kind of is like missing. I don't know. I barely see him in the community, to be honest. So there's a huge opportunity here on the ballot, and I hope that you guys support me, because I want to support you.
Well, thank you for those closing words. That was very beautiful, very powerful. This man is here to help out the people, to speak for you. And I hope you can do that right here on this November 5th is the election, correct?
That's right.
November 5th is your election time for Saguache County, and that's also your presidential election too. So do not forget about that as well. This is for County Commissioner for District 1, but he also...
Can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Also, if you've enjoyed this podcast, obviously everyone, please, if you want to reach out to me, do so. But then beyond that, if you want a yard sign, I do have a few extras, and I'm happy to get them out before they're gone.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And if you take them out of the yard, that's actually illegal. So you get in some serious trouble for doing that. Not only trespassing, but yeah, that's the truth. But I just want to say, man, I really appreciate you for coming out and having this time. When's your next rally? You have another rally coming up scheduled?
Actually, I don't have a planned rally coming up. I've been trying to get into each of these community events. I know I will be at the Energy Fair, walking around. So look for me. And anytime you see me, feel free to stop me and have a talk.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And let you all know that I will be at the Crestone Energy Fair too. I rented the town hall and the recording area where they hold the town meetings and stuff. I rented that whole room, that whole building. We got full bathroom, but we're going to be doing interviews. And if you would like to come over, Marcus, Weir, you're more than welcome to come and sit back down and do another shootout for free. This is sponsored by God's Green Earth, Crestone Podcast and Radio on God's Green Earth. And I want to say we love you. We love you so much. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the energy that you're going to put out there to help us get back to where we need to be. Peaceful, with a little bit more money in our pocket and a little less stress on our back. There's always going to be stress, but you know what I mean? I love you, everybody. Stay snazzy.